Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different, and honestly, I think it's pretty beautiful. We're going to take the deeply comforting wisdom of a 17th century sacred text and translate it into real, practical guidance for surviving the high-stress, always-on nature of our modern lives. So if you're a young professional or literally anyone juggling a million deadlines and expectations right now, stick around because this one is absolutely for you. Let's just dive right in by confronting that baseline burnout so many of us are dealing with. Ask yourself, where do you actually go when the world just gets way too loud? The constant pings, the emails piling up, that endless pressure to just be on 24/7. How do we find a sense of peace when our careers start to feel entirely overwhelming? We usually look for external escapes, right? But today's source material is going to point us in a completely different direction. Which brings us to Section 1, the search for sanctuary. So the core message we're looking at today comes from a Hukamnama, which is a divine command from the Guru Granth Sahib. And if you're unfamiliar, this is the central holy scripture of Sikhism, revered as the living guru. We're specifically looking at page 632, which beautifully invites the stressed out, wandering mind to contemplate what it calls the sanctuary of God. But okay, what does that actually mean for us on a random Tuesday when we're absolutely drowning in tasks? Well, here's the best part. This sanctuary is not a physical destination. You don't need to book a flight or take a 2-week sabbatical to find it. The text uses this concept of Simran, which means meditative remembrance. It tells us the sanctuary is an internal, quiet harbor. It's a deeply grounded mental refuge you can tap into right at your desk while staring at a chaotic inbox or stuck in brutal gridlock traffic or even right in the middle of a tense, high-stakes meeting. Let's move on to Section 2, escaping sudden life crises. Now, it's one thing to find peace when things are relatively calm, right? But what about when that internal sanctuary is tested by a sudden, massive panic? The text gives us this incredibly vivid metaphor for that exact scenario. It says, quote, "As soon as the elephant took to the protective sanctuary of the Lord, he escaped from the crocodile." Just picture that imagery for a second. You have this massive, incredibly strong elephant suddenly pulled down by the crushing jaws of a crocodile lurking right under the water. We all have those terrifying moments where a heavy burden just drops on us out of nowhere. A sudden project failure, a massive crisis at work, a late-night email you never saw coming, boom, the jaws snap shut. But the text promises that deliberately tapping into that inward sanctuary of meditative remembrance is the exact thing that instantly breaks those bonds and helps us escape the panic. It's literally an instant release valve, pulling us right out of the murky water and back onto solid ground. And that brings us to Section 3, moving past our mistakes. Beyond those sudden, unexpected crises, this wisdom also gives us this incredibly forgiving roadmap for the heavier, slower burdens we carry. Our past mistakes, deep-seated guilt, or that pesky imposter syndrome telling us we aren't good enough. The text actually uses 4 specific historical and mythological figures to prove a massive point about mental freedom. Take a look at 2 of them here, Ganika and Ajaamal. Think of Ganika carrying this immense weight of societal judgment and shame about her past, or Ajaamal, a guy navigating life with a totally ruined reputation, branded by society as a known sinner. That is the ultimate heavy baggage. But here's the wild part. In both stories, the exact second they stepped into this mental sanctuary of meditative remembrance, they were redeemed. Instantly. Their history didn't matter anymore. The lesson here is so profound. Absolutely no past mistake, no agonizing career failure, no amount of imposter syndrome is too heavy to just let go of. This internal sanctuary doesn't interrogate your resume. It just wipes the slate clean immediately. All right, moving right along to Section 4, finding fearless stability. By letting go of all that heavy baggage and breaking free from the crocodile jaws of sudden panic, we actually create room in our minds for something super powerful. We transition from just surviving our stress to achieving true, grounded stability. The text points to the figure of Dhroo to show us what this actually looks like. Dhroo represents someone who was once super unstable and fearful. But by anchoring his mind in this sanctuary through remembrance, his suffering was completely removed. And what replaced it? Absolute fearlessness. It happens because this kind of remembrance shrinks our ego, right? It connects us to something way bigger, reminding us that our everyday problems are not the center of the universe. Just imagine walking into your most intimidating performance review or stepping onto a stage to give a massive presentation to industry leaders, completely and utterly devoid of fear. That is the kind of profound, unshakable stability the text says is available to every single one of us. Let's hit Section 5, the jewel of fulfillment. As we reach the culmination of this verse, the text shifts gears. It moves away from what we're escaping, the stress, the fear, and focuses on what we actually receive when we finally stop treating external success as our only metric for happiness. It introduces this beautiful concept of the Chintaamani. The text translates this as the jewel which fulfills all desires. And in our modern, everyday context, this is a stunning metaphor for absolute, ultimate peace. It's this gentle reminder that everything we are completely exhausting ourselves trying to get on the outside, the endless promotions, the perfect image, the nonstop hustle, all of that can actually be found in the quiet, abundant peace on the inside. Spiritual remembrance is literally the jewel we've been searching for the whole time. And then the verse ends with this gorgeous final promise. It says Nanak, remember the Chintaamani, the jewel which fulfills all desires, and you too shall be carried across and saved. Wow, it is just such a deeply reassuring thought. It's basically telling us that if we just take a moment to remember this inner jewel, we don't have to swim so hard against the current anymore. We don't have to keep fighting the tide of our own anxieties. Instead, we'll be warmly and safely carried across the turbulent, stressful waters of our daily lives. Okay, so how do we actually apply this timeless wisdom today? Right now, we can follow 3 incredibly simple steps to completely transform our mindset. Step 1, just pause. When the modern world gets too loud, physically stop for a second, take a deep breath, and detach from the noise. Step 2, remember your anchor. Use that concept of Cimarron to deliberately step into your internal sanctuary, intentionally pulling back from all the demands screaming for your attention. And step 3, from that safe, grounded place, consciously let go of those sudden crocodile fears and that lingering imposter syndrome. Remind yourself they do not define you. It really is that accessible. So, I want to leave you with this final, empowering thought to chew on today. What is your crocodile right now? Seriously, what is that sudden stressor or lingering fear that has its jaws locked on you? And more importantly, are you ready to step into your inner sanctuary to break its grip? Remember, the peace you are desperately searching for doesn't require a tropical vacation or some total life overhaul. That sanctuary already exists completely and beautifully right within you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you find some space for that inner peace today.